Hello, and welcome to the North Coast Journal Preview, where we take a look at the stories being covered in the upcoming edition of the North Coast Journal. My name is Dave Frank, and I'm joined by North Coast Journal's news editor, Thad Greenson, and Arts and Features editor, Jennifer Fumiko Cahill. Welcome, guys.
Hi.
David.
Why don't we just dive right in, Thad? You could tell us what's on the cover this week.
Yeah, well, before I get to this week's edition, we had some breaking news just hit just a couple hours before we're recording this, which is that Humboldt County Health Officer Teresa Frankovich has announced her intention to retire. So she's informed the Board of Supervisors that she'll be stepping down from her position. It's unclear exactly when, though she kind of indicated she hopes for a smooth transition, and then she hopes to stay on in some capacity with the pandemic response effort, but hopes that that will be part-time under a full-time health officer who is not her.
Well, this is a sad development. I think we heard things like this happening in other communities around the state, so I guess there's a lot of pressure there, and as more information becomes available, I'm sure we'll be able to talk about it again soon. So thanks for filling us in on that. What else have you guys got going on there? I think it's COVID related again this week. Is that right?
Yeah, so this week we have a cover story from Cal Matters, and then a sidebar looking kind of at local conditions. But the package is all about the state's new framework for how to regulate businesses and other organizations and kind of public activities in counties with various COVID conditions. And so the state had its watch list, which is counties that met certain metrics, had much more restrictive measures in place, and then this new approach is kind of more of a tiered approach, and so there's four different categories that counties can fall in, and then as they move up or down those risk tiers, more restrictions or less restrictions come into play. And so the idea is that it's not just kind of an on and off again black and white switch that the state is flicking, either closing restaurants or opening them for dining service. This is more tiered. So, for instance, right now, Humboldt County is considered a moderate risk county. And so it allows dine-in services for restaurants at 50% capacity. However, if we were bumped up to the next tier, which would be a substantial risk category, then restaurants would still be allowed to offer dine-in services, but they'd have to scale back to 25% capacity. And so it looks at kind of risk factors across all sectors, so everything from gyms to movie theaters to restaurants to daycare centers, and then kind of has this tiered approach based on local conditions.
So this is the governor's plan, colored tiers, yellow, orange, red, purple, are those four you described. And so is this in effect now, as soon as the governor released it? And sort of, is it something that will impact us here in our community too?
Yeah, it is in play now in Humboldt County. The governor released it on Friday, and the public health officer, Dr. Frankovich, initially said kind of, we're going to hold off and make sure we know exactly what this means before implementing it locally, but then quickly followed up, I think, on Monday saying that this was now in play in Humboldt County. And in the immediate term, it does not. There's a few areas where it's more in Humboldt County. Generally, it allows businesses a little bit more leeway. I think most notably, as I mentioned, restaurants to start opening up for dine-in services again. But it also allows, gyms to, it allows movie theaters to resume operations at kind of a reduced capacity. Allows bars to open for outdoor service only at this point. And then there's a couple weird areas where, like I said, it is more restrictive. And one of those is gyms, which previously had been allowed to open following certain safety protocols. And now they can remain open, but they have to reduce capacity to 25%.
Gotcha. So in the old former system, one of the metrics, I believe, was also keeping track, or our success rate, I suppose, with how much testing and tracking and tracing we were doing. That's not part of this plan. Did you hear anything about that? Like how they're going to manage to incorporate that into the new plan in any way?
Yeah, so nominally the new plan focuses on just two metrics. So one is new cases per 100,000 residents over a 7-day period, and the other is the average case positivity rate over a 7-day period. And so ostensibly, those are the only factors determining what tier a county lands in. However, Dr. Frankovich said at the Board of Supervisors meeting yesterday that there is some leeway for the state to take into account hospitalizations, hospital capacity, testing capacity, contact tracing capacity as well. But that's not in any of the public official state documents that I've seen, so it's hard to say exactly how the state will work that in or if it will.
Gotcha. So you mentioned that it's numbers of cases per 100,000 residents and numbers of deaths per 100,000 residents. I think that's the graphic that's tracked on the New York Times webpage. And so you could go to the state of California and you could go to each county. And when you looked at where our county stands, we're in that like bottom group of like 7 to 10, meaning like we are doing a really good job here so far. But then there's this risk that things might change. Did Dr. Frankovich or anyone else mention, our expectations about things changing?
Yeah, so we're in again in the moderate risk category, and our metrics at the time that the state made this determination was we'd seen an average of 3.6 new cases per 100,000 residents and a testing positivity rate of about 1.7%. So to move down to the less restrictive category, the minimal risk tier, we would have to see an average daily cases fall to below 1 a day, with less than a 2% testing positivity period. And we need to maintain that for 21 days.
Oh, wow.
So we're, while we're doing good, as you said, we're a long way from the minimal tier. And I think there's only 2 counties in the state that have reached that minimal tier in kind of this first run. But to get bumped up to the more restrictive area, we would need we would need to see an average of between 4 and 7 new cases a day. And or a positivity rate of 5 to 8%. So our positivity rate is really low, and we're testing a lot more than some other counties, which, as far as an opening up or not viewpoint, it might actually work against us that we're testing so much because we are going to have more positive cases. And we're not currently, and we're not at the point that the state made this determination, but there have certainly been times when we have seen between 4 and 7 new cases a day on average for a week or more. So that's the risk, is that our case count will rise to the point that it does push us into that substantial risk tier.
Well, thanks for breaking it down for us. I'm sure there's more available in the story, so I'll check it out. I appreciate the nuanced understanding what's going on. So definitely thank you.
Thank you.
How about you, Jennifer? What's going on in the arts and features beat this week?
Well, right now, as we speak, restaurants everywhere are scrambling to move their chairs and tables and try and figure out what's 50% capacity, what's 25% capacity, and whether or not to reopen indoor dining when they just blew all their money on putting together a parking lot patio. There are questions. However, the one thing that doesn't seem to be going away just yet is takeout. And this week I spoke to some folks who are admins and the one person who's the founder of Humboldt to Go, which if you are a person who uses Facebook, and are we ready to just say like Facebook is evil? Facebook is evil. Facebook is the devil. Yeah. But there are people. Sad. I know there are people who are doing good work via Facebook, and among them is Melissa Harnden, who she's a nurse. She's an OB nurse in St. John's, so she spends her time, actually her nights, I should say, on the overnight shift from 6 p.m. to 6:30 in the morning. Wow. Birthing babies and helping people bring little babies into the world, which is very busy stuff these days. She's not ready to say that they're COVID babies or shelter-in-place babies. We don't have that much time behind us. But there's a lot of babies, and there's not that many, obstetric options in Humboldt County. So she's already busy. She's already exhausted. And when the pandemic sort of moved into California, she and other nurses found themselves eating a lot of fast food. those were the places they knew were open, and you're on these crazy shifts. You come home at 6:30 in the morning. I'm sorry, do you want to cook? Would you like to cook a healthy meal right now? You would not. So a lot of her friends and her coworkers were relying on fast food and wondering what's open. They didn't know what was open. They were anxious for their favorite restaurants and their favorite food businesses. And somebody tipped her off to this Anchorage to Go Facebook group. And Anchorage, Alaska has a big fat Facebook group for takeout food. And it also started in March. And it was basically built to help people find what was open and help restaurants let people know that they were open. So she said to herself, you know, I've got other Facebook things going. She has a succulents page. She has different pages for different things. And she does a lot of things for community service. So she thought, you know, with her kind of nursing helper instincts, she thought we could do this. And so she started the Humboldt to Go page, and she reached out to restaurants, she reached out to business owners, and then she started sharing it all over the place. And it grew by the hundreds until it went on Humboldt Foodies, which if you aren't using Humboldt Foodies to see the glory of people photographing their own lunch, you really need to. It's very life affirming. I just want to see everybody's biscuits and gravy every Sunday morning. But she started this group, and then once it kind of morphed or, you know, started drawing people from this other larger, more established group that's been around since 2014, I think, it blew up. And so now it's got 9,000 members, which doesn't sound so huge, but considering that we're Humboldt County and considering that this started in March, she got it up and running right after the shutdown. It's a very fast growth. And so she's happy with all of the sharing that's been going on. It's been really positive, but there has been drama. And you know that, yes, you know, it's me. I come for the food, I stay for the drama. So right. The mess is so real. It started with the effort to keep the page local. So Melissa Harnden, she's, you know, the founder, she wants this to be positive. And she talked to me a little bit about how difficult and stressful and emotional the first months of lockdown were. And, you know, how frightening it was, honestly, to be a nurse. We knew less then about the virus and how to keep from getting it and how to keep from getting it to our families. So it was just a wildly stressful time. And on top of that, she's got angry people DMing her saying, why can't I post my Wendy's burger? You're a monster. And really attacking, sometimes a little bit threatening, over sandwiches. Sure.
Oh, no.
And eventually she got help. And the help she got was from a couple of people that she did not know were basically her neighbors in Blue Lake. One of them, Tyler Pitts, who is one of the oldest admins on, I know I made him sound old, one of the earliest admins on the Humboldt Foodies page. And he is I guess I would say he's like a combination of chef and online bouncer. Oh. And he came in to basically be the enforcer of the page, just blocking and muting. He said he wastes a little more time fighting with people than he should. Less now, but there's been a lot of controversy besides the keeping the page local thing. There's also been some issues with keeping it positive. Jessica Jones, who is another Blue Lake neighbor who helps out with the page and keeps it running smoothly. She was just really thrilled to be involved in something really positive and something that was helping restaurants stay afloat and helping people find a little taste of normalcy during the crazy. So that was really important to her. And there have been also some other controversies, like people who were offended and, I don't know, deeply bothered by a post that was trying to make a list of Black-owned businesses to patronize and to support. And apparently people just, well, they can stay mad all day because they didn't take the post down. But there's a lot of drama over that. And I think it's one of these stories that I enjoyed talking to people about something positive they were doing, and also reminding myself that food really is where people lose their minds. And so it's a story I really enjoyed talking to people for. Melissa was great to talk to, and it was a real pleasure.
So can you remind us again how we find this and how we would benefit from all the drama?
So if you go to Humboldt to
I mean
Go,
the service.
if you go to Facebook and you just look up Humboldt to Go, you'll find them. And, as soon as we dismantle Facebook and its evil octopus of control over our minds, then we can move it to another platform and enjoy it there.
Well, right on. Thank you very much. I'm going to go check it out. Thad, Jennifer, we appreciate you guys being here. That's just going to about do it for us this week. Pick up a copy of North Coast Journal on stands now and also available online. Take care, and we'll see you guys again next week.
Thanks, David.
See you next week. Stay safe.